This podcast is proud to be part of the talkSPORT Fan Network. talkSPORT. Powered by fans.
Jepson's there, Billy Hinnen. A goal, Chris Billy, Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Chris Billy's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield.
Oi. Thank you.
And Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that
chance! Okay, Twitter Spaces is here to stay. The Spaces Army are on their way, and I would rather be anywhere else but here today. So, hello everybody, welcome to our Twitter Spaces in lieu of, in post-match of our defeat at Bristol City. So we promised to do these things without thinking them through properly, don't we? So here we are after the drudgery of a 2-0 defeat at Bristol City. So we'll talk a little bit about the game as usual amongst ourselves, and then what we'll do is we'll turn it over, phone-in style if you like, to you guys to get whatever you want off your chest, and let's see who makes it through the Kosi bear trap this week. Speaking of Kosi, where is he? He's always late to these things, isn't he? Right then. So Bristol City 2, Huddersfield Town 0. Another thrilling game for us. So thanks to everybody who's joining. So we've got Dan, we've got Jonny. So I'm going to unmute everybody so people can join in with the fun. Poz, you've stayed up especially, so unmute yourself if you've muted yourself, Poz. I know you're new to this, but you stayed up especially. Usually you're tucked up in bed around about this time, aren't you, mate? So thank you for staying up. You know, we know me and you, people like me and you, need the beauty sleep. So just tell us what you thought of the game. I feel pretty down on the game, to be honest. I feel like I don't really want to talk about it. So you do the talking for me and let me know how you thought of it. What you think.
Yeah, pretty performance overall. I thought created a few chances. Certainly, the first half at 0-0. Thought we had 2 or 3 chances that on another night, another day, go in, and it changes the way that the game's played overall. But we didn't take those chances, and obviously Bristol went 1-0 up. Second half looked a little bit brighter, kind of moved ball a little bit better, but still didn't really penetrate Bristol in any sort of serious way. And then again, could say we're unlucky with the chances that we had. Jones hitting the post, and Bristol literally going straight up other end of the field and then making it 2-0. And sometimes you get the feeling that your luck's not in, and maybe tonight was one of those nights. But yeah, it's not looking good, is it? The sort of the positives from the performance where we created a few chances. Obviously negatives we didn't take. We're still looking very suspect at the back. I think if you look back to last season, I think we were a team last year that were never going to score millions of goals. Odd game apart, we won quite a lot by the odd goal. But we were solid in defence. We were organised. We had that threat from set pieces as well, which we don't seem to have, and that organisation in defence seems to have disappeared as well. So, there's 2 main strengths really from last season out there anymore, and it's glaringly obvious to show that at the moment anyway, we're not good enough. People quite rightly sort of start asking who's to blame for that, to not be good enough. I've seen a little bit of a shift, just reading Twitter quickly before coming on here in regards to people kind of having a pop directly at Schofield now. I still feel that is a little bit harsh. He was kind of given this role. I don't think the squad's anywhere near good enough. So for inexperienced managers to be given such a squad and expected to, be pushing top half at the table after only 6 games is a big ask for me. I think we need to give him a little bit more time. how long that is, I don't know. Certainly the noise that came out of Hoyle, when you were appointed, were that he'd sort of moved heaven and earth to get Danny Schofield to stay. So it's going to be very difficult now for Hoyle to come round and get rid of him. Certainly after 6 games, even after 10. When you usually kind of make your opinions and stuff like that. So it's going to be quite interesting, I think, over the next few weeks as to how the mood of the fans is in regards to Schofield. Obviously, got quite a lot of people on tonight, so it'd be great to hear some opinions from them. No doubt, there's some that are wanting him gone and some that are wanting to back him. So let's see what other people have to say.
Yeah, we sat here. Mr. Kosmala decided to set this up, didn't he? And where is he? He's absolutely shithoused us, hasn't he, tonight? So he's completely done one. He's set us up and done a runner, hasn't he? Jonny, I'll bring you in at this point as well. So Town did have chances. We had a little WhatsApp group, didn't we? Town, Tom Lees had a chance around about 15 minutes in, where Sorbers put the corner over, and he's made that near post run, and he's just got a little bit underneath it, and the ball's gone flying over. Jordan Rhodes had a header just before that as well. We have had chances. You look at the stats, and we've created what's believed to be 2 clear-cut chances there. Just tell us what you think of the game itself.
Yeah, I flick between trying to put where we are in the run, Schofield, last season, everything to one side. I think sometimes a game at a certain point in a season, in a certain situation, can the context around it can really change an opinion. So I've trying to move that to one side for a little bit. We do create chances in that game. Just as purely on the positive side, Turton has a good chance, misses his header. Lees has a free header and kind of looks at the sky and thinks why he's not put that away. And then obviously Pat Jones at the end, great little chance, gets on it, does well to get on it, but it just hits the post, and obviously that leads to the goal. So there's more to it than this, but purely looking at there's 3 chances there where Town have create opportunities to score. Same against West Brom. We did create opportunities to score. I know we discussed that on the pod, but then the situation where we are, do you know what I mean? The bigger picture as a whole kind of comes flooding back, and you think, but how long do we keep saying we're creating chances but we've lost the game? Create chances, lost the game, and then jump look at other issues. And Poz has got to hit the nail on the head there with regards to the defending. It is so poor, and it was such a strength last season. I know we have lost personnel out of that, and I'd include Matty Pearson in that as well, because he was an integral part of the defence. For 3/4 of the season last year, and he's currently on the sideline. So it is a bit of a major personnel shift, but it's just gone. What used to win us games like tonight would be that it would be that clean sheet. We wouldn't concede. You wouldn't have Naki Wells winning a header. He won 2 headers. One went in back of the net, and one he put wide. That's a chance that Bristol City fans might point to and say, hey, we could have another one. But we would get a no, we would get a nil, and we'd probably take one of the chances that come our way. We might come away 1-0, and that's the difference. And it's fine margins, but the defending has been shocking. Central midfield play is poor again. It's an issue which we've seen week on week on week. Our ability to retain the ball, play simple passes, pass and move through the middle of the pack isn't there. And then you think, well, okay, you point to these chances, these clear-cut chances, but there are other issues. So it's hard. Again, going on to the Schofield issue, I think Town fans are quite understanding of that. I think it's a case of, if you look through Twitter, a lot of it is, look, Schofield needs to maybe be relieved, or someone else needs to come in and help him. But I think Town fans are understanding the situation. But this squad for me, if we get the players that are in that room to come in, and we can maybe try and show up a bit of midfield, and Kasuma come back and play, it's better than where it is. It's better than the performances that it's churning out and the results we've got on the board. I know we're still quite early, but we are getting close to that 10-game mark now. And if that is the case, and I believe it to be the case, and we'll see what other people think, then the finger does start to turn to the coaching staff and the management as we kind of progress throughout the season. But yeah, try to take some of the positives out of it, but ultimately there are still the negatives, and you can't keep ignoring the situation that surrounds Huddersfield Town and where we are in the league, because ultimately that is what defines success in football is a league position. So the longer we go through the season, the more important that will become.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cheers, Johnny.
So,
can you hear us, Matt?
We're still waiting for Mr. Kosmala, aren't we, to join us? I think he's having a few issues. So what we'll do is we'll open up. So if anybody else wants to come on and have a chat, so I've invited a couple of other people on as well. So if you can't hear me like Kosi, then obviously I'd say let me know. But there we go.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, we'll have to get shouting outside the door. We're trying to get on.
Yeah,
but there's a few things I think that stood out for me, and I think
he's going now, Matt. He's going.
Is he going?
He can't hear you. If you shut up, he'll be able to talk. Go on, Cosby.
It's like being an interpreter. You know what, Poz, Matt? There's nothing worse that when I watch any football. I hate people getting cheap, easy crosses in. I want to see fullbacks batter someone, stand right tall to him, really force them to work so hard to get a cross in. That effort from Ollie Turton today was absolutely pathetic. I don't know if he was still in health after missing his open goal header, but that's garbage. That's kind of stuff for me that it's got relegation written all over it. That's just no commitment, rubbish, man. And it just set the tone. It breaks your heart, doesn't it? Easy win. And again, Ruffles. Wow, I don't know if anyone had showed him any videos of Naki Worlds when he played for us, but. Wow, he got in front of him again second half, should have scored really and that as well, but Ruffles had a shocker. For me, easily our worst player. Turton as well. He was rubbish, and it's okay saying, we missed a lot of chances, and we did, but if you can't keep clean sheets, there's no point, and like you were saying earlier on, Poz, like the fact that it was underpinned last season, built on a strong defence and no gifts really, where this time it's a totally different ball game, and yeah, so disappointing. Again, Pat Jones, the live wire. I want to see him start on Sunday. No pissing about, Danny Schofield. No pissing about. All right, we're ill on Saturday. I want to see him start, mate. A breath of fresh air. Brilliant what he did again in such a short space of time, but he's got no fear. He's got a bit of passion, and we want to see people like that. I just feel the next 24 hours is huge for Huddersfield Town. Obviously, it's been such a bizarre kind of 24 hours. We expected to see heeeere in, we expected to see Simpson in, then we did see today that bizarre West Brom thing come up, days after this video came out, and it's just a bit of a mess at the moment. But yeah, you said, Poz, what do you give Schofield at? If you look before the international break, we've got 3 massive home games to come, Wigan, Cardiff, and Sunday against Blackpool, who've lost tonight against Blackburn. For me, I think he's going to live and die by them games. QPR away as well. And yeah, it's looking grim at the moment. But I thought Bristol City were there for the taking tonight. I didn't think they were a good side coming into the game. I thought we had a good chance and we should have probably won, get the goals in front. But again, like, Steve Chicken and Dave Architson in their podcast, do we have to score 3 goals to win a match? Again, it looks like it, doesn't it? So huge concerns. And if you haven't got huge concerns about Huddersfield Town at the moment, then yeah, I'll have a pint of what you're on, man.
Yeah, it's a funny one because we did the pod on Sunday. Because just so you know, I think you and Matt are both logged in under the Take That Chance podcast, which is why you can't hear each other.
Right.
So if you log off, mate, change your account and log back in as yourself. That should sort it out.
I'm about as good as Ollie Turton tonight, mate, so I'll do that.
No, you're right in what you say, though. I think these next few games will definitely define what's going to happen coming up Saturday night.
There we go. We just had to remove Mr. Kosmala from all proceedings there. So if anyone wants to know where Kosi is, I've just sacked him. So there we go. Now he'll be back on in a minute, and we'll just invite a couple of others back in to co-host as well. Poz hopefully hasn't gone to bed. Brad, you've requested to speak. So what I'll do, buddy, is I'll bring you in just now, Brad. So if you want to have your say now, buddy, and then we will move on to whoever's next.
Evening, lads. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I've not really watched it tonight because I've been elsewhere. But is it bad to say that it's getting that bad now? Where I'm kind of just looking at it and I just expect it. I don't see Town playing and look at it and think that we're going to get out. Like literally, like. Sometimes I joke about it, but can you all hear me? Yeah.
Yeah. We're all Brad, don't worry about it. So
no, it's on my end. It's glitching. I'm just not really. I agree with what Kosi was saying about showing heart and grafting, and we just haven't got that. And I in all honesty, I don't think Schofield's a man for us, to be honest. I totally agree that he's been thrown in the deep end, and I feel awful for him because he's been given the worst tools and expected, well, unimaginable results. But I also agree with what, I can't remember who said it, but we've got these important home games coming next. I can't see 3 teams in this division worse than us at the minute. I seriously can't. So if those home games are so important, maybe I don't know, maybe I'm overreacting, but it might be damage limitation time. I know we're 5 games in, but the teams we've lost to, they're nothing special. They're not like top teams. Lost to Norwich when they were bottom, lost to Birmingham. Burnley opening day, that's by the by, but 2-0. And obviously the scoreline suggests differently to the game from what I'm being told. But if we're not scoring at least 1 in this game and they're doing 2 over us, and from what I'm hearing, missing easy chances, it's just not looking promising, is it? And like I say, I just think we've lost his heart. Someone said earlier about how they were a certain way that we scored goals, and we've lost it. We used to look at corners like free kicks and like actual goal scoring opportunities, and now bar the Nakayama one, I'm just like, what's realistically going to happen, is it? I've genuinely lost my head just as much as all them have. I can't see where the next win's coming from. So yeah.
Do you think, Brad, and well, not just you, Brad, but everybody else as well who's listening in, just reading on Twitter quickly after the match, and obviously there's the instant comparison with Carlos Corberán and the way that he played and stuff like that. And under Carlos, we never really played any sort of scintillating football or anything like that. I've always said football is a results business, and the performance comes second. If you win, you're happy.
Absolutely.
You don't really care how you play. Do you think if we take those early chances tonight and we win, it's obvious to say we'd be a lot happier because we've won, but 2-0, we come out 2-0 winners, yet we still play exactly the same. People are as critical as obviously there's the frailties, there's the fact that we didn't score, and B, we've started to let more in. But you kind of mentioned about the performances and not really wanting to tune in, and I kind of resonate with that because it's like bloody hell, he's not going to be great at football to watch, and we're probably going to lose. But last year we were quite happy to play that football because we were winning. So it's kind of a bit of a crossroads, isn't it? If you know what I mean. Like we weren't sort of critical of Carlos for playing this sort of boring style, for want of a better phrase, because we were winning. But now all of a sudden we're kind of playing that under Danny Schofield, and we're not winning it. The performances are being analysed a lot more. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. You look into it more to see what's gone wrong. When we win, it's almost like even if there's a massive problem when we win, we just paper the cracks and leave it to next week because we've won. I completely agree with what you're saying, but I think it's time now where we just have to, like I said, damage limitation. I think we have to just be simple with stuff and go to basics and look to, because every game we've played so far, right? Yeah, we're trying to play good football, but we're just not really coming out with anything. Like West Brom, didn't you have like 70% possession over us over that game? And we're the home side, and I mean, Birmingham, that were the one for me. I know, yes, it's early doors, but that were the one for me. I'm just like, there's no character, there's no grafting. You've got Tino and the rest of them carrying show. I mean, genuinely, if we didn't have Tino, I fear we'd even be below Coventry. Because I don't think there's any way we get those 2 goals. Well, we don't get those 2 goals against West Brom. Mm-hmm. And he looks hungry and he's giving a bit of graft. I'm not seeing it from all 11. And
Brad, I'm going to argue against you. I thought best we played all season tonight. I thought we played really well. We should have won, definitely. And I thought we played well for quite a lot of game on Saturday. I think last two performances have been good, but the worry is if you keep shipping in goals like we did, we're going nowhere. So I'm not as downbeat as you. I'm not like Schofield out or what have you. But again, it's just like if you're letting in 2 goals every other game, you're in big trouble. But I think there's quite a bit to be positive about. I can see why we're after 2 centre backs. And I can see why we're probably trying to get Will Boyle out. I think Bayern Munich and Barcelona interested from what I've been hearing just on Sky Sports now. But no, in all seriousness, I think last 2, that's what I mean. It's really weird because we played well, I think, last 2 games, but we've got 1 point. So we should be in good art, really, for these 3 games against teams that, are kind of around us in the table. But just don't feel right, does it?
I mean, look, we've just like... I agree, and obviously sometimes you can play well and lose, sometimes you can play awful and win, but I'd rather have the latter every single step of the way. I'd rather us defend for all game and then go and smash and grab it every game and win, because ultimately, if we're playing good stuff but we're not finishing in his chances, it's basic stuff that's letting us down. That even when we do play good, I feel like that's what lets us down. We end up doing all the hard work, playing this, brilliant, intricate football, and then we go missing easy chance. And Saturday were the first time in ages that we were clinical. And then look at what we go and do. We go and do the normal Huddersfield Town thing and bottle a lead. And, the crowd, we're trying to really get behind them and thing. And it's just not happening for them. It's just not. We give such soft goals away. And I mean, look, Naki Wells is about 5'8", and you've got defenders being beat to the ball. Yes, we can play well, but I'd rather we get the job done. And I think that the formation's wrong at the moment. Don't get me wrong, there's positives, but if we're not getting anything from the game, then those positives just become halved and quartered straight away, because if we play well every game but lose, we still go down at the end of the day. So it's just how football is, really. If you don't get the goods, then ultimately we come out with egg on his face. And I totally get that it is getting slowly better in some aspects, but whilst one area gets better for us, we seem to just be so slack on the other. As we score more, we tend to concede more. And that's kind of how I'm seeing it at the minute.
All right, cheers for that, Brad. Yes, difficult, isn't it, at the minute, especially with just one win in, 6-7 games now coming up to, if you include the cup as well. I'll bring Josh Phillips in as well. Josh, I'm nicely echoing for you, so I'll shut up in a minute. But it's been a while since we've had you on the podcast. Good to see you again. Congratulations on getting married. I can see you proudly displaying that picture in your profile there, buddy. Let us know. Get it off your chest. Let us know what's going on.
Oh, cheers, mate. Thanks. Good evening, everyone. Tonight's game, I only saw the first half because I had to nip out, but based on the first half and the West Brom game, I'd say I'm somewhere in between what Kosi was saying and what Brad was saying. There are positives, which I can see, but also I wouldn't go as far as to say that we played well. At half-time, I texted you, Matt, and I said, I thought we did all right, and you disagreed with me, so I don't know if I saw it the same as you. I think we're doing okay, but we're quite passive, aren't we? Anyway, the point I want to make is about the midfield. What I really want to say is if we don't sign a midfielder tomorrow, which I don't think we are because we've not been linked with anyone, then I really fear for us in that position. We've got Kasumu, who's supposedly brought in to replace O'Brien. He's got a bad injury record, bit of a gamble to put that on his shoulders. A young player as well. Hogg, he'll start picking up more injuries maybe now. He's not getting any younger. When he does play, what you're going to get from him. Russell, I like Russell. We've had a few disagreements about him. But I will admit he's bang out of form. And I think he needs a bit of time out of the team. But you can't because there's no one to bring in to replace him. And then you've let Scott High go to Rotherham, which I thought at the time, fair enough. Let him go out, get some games. But right now, he'd be getting games, wouldn't he, for us? So, yeah, I just want to know what you guys think about if you think we need a midfielder as well, but it doesn't look like we're going to get one.
I highlight. Sorry, Poz. I was going to say I highlighted this. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I think we're really lacking an energetic ball playing midfielder. I don't think the blend's right at all. If we're going to play that double pivot, I don't really like. I thought Redoni was one of the bright sparks actually today. I thought Redoni and Sorba were probably two of the better ones overall. And I like Jack Redoni, but I don't really see him playing in that sort of pivot along with either Hogg. And I don't really see a natural partnership there. We talk about your ball winners and your ball players, if you like, and I don't see one that fits. You throw Russell in there, maybe Russell and Kasumu works a little bit, but Kasumu's obviously got his problems. But I really think we're an energetic passing midfielder short, and alarmingly so at the moment.
I completely agree as well. I think over the podcast last few episodes, we've been saying how much we absolutely desperately need that midfielder. And maybe we'd have a slightly different opinion, like say if Kasumu have, come on, looked energetic for 10 minutes, kind of got a harsh yellow card and then gone off. If he'd managed to play the first few games, it might have looked a bit different. But again, it's an injury record that we all knew. But it's such a gap. I've seen Russell getting a bit of heat.
I thought he did better today, Johnny. To be honest, I thought he lifted it a bit today.
Yeah, I thought he did a little bit. I thought he got a little bit more of his old game back. But it's not. Who else? The question asked is who else plays at the moment, and that's the problem with fitness in that central midfield position. But absolutely agree with yourself and Matt. It's an area where there's a massive gap there, and we said in the pods on Sunday we've not really even been linked to anyone in that position. So hopefully it's the best kept secret in Huddersfield at the moment. Someone's going to come in, but it's a gap we really need because it is where a lot of our problems are coming from going forward and defending. Players are having to put themselves, defenders, centre backs, and put themselves in positions that they didn't have to do last season, or they're not comfortable with doing. It's because we're just so behind play in that midfield, or the gaps are so big, and we've got players playing in there who they're not playing to the strengths. Russell doesn't work as a 2. Rodoni's done okay, but again, it's not where he plays. It's not where he plays best. So we're kind of not. I don't feel we're seeing the best of Rodoni because he's been asked to do a role and he's doing well at it, but it's not his natural position. So fix that, and I do think we fixed a lot of things alongside it. But hopefully we'll get somebody in.
One thing we were chatting about, and obviously we have our own WhatsApp group, and everyone's not privy to that. But one thing we were discussing was the actual territory that Huddersfield Town have. In these games, we're looking back over the course of the season. How many times do we have possession in the opponent's half and dictate the ball within their half? I can't really think of many examples of doing so, and that's what I want to see. I want to see us on the ball in the opposition half, passing and probing and looking for spaces. And I'm not quite seeing that at the minute. But like I said, there are some good players in there. You've got Tino, you've got Redoni and Sorba, etc. So hopefully, sooner or later something clicks for them, and hopefully something clicks for a couple of our next few speakers. So if you want to have a say, make a request to speak, and we'll see what we can do on that one for you. And we've got Fax Terrier wants to speak. So if you're still listening and we've not bored you to tears, come in, get it off your chest. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, cheers, guys. My name's Chris. I have a different name on Twitter. Listen to her all the time, and this is my first time speaking. So cheers for letting me come on. I think we are in serious trouble, guys. I really, really do. It's not looking good. I agreed with what Brad said earlier. Danny Schofield, great guy, legend as a player. I just don't think he's good enough at this level. It's baffling at times with his tactics. Some of his substitutions are a bit strange. And just the way we play. I mean, I know we played all right against West Brom, but as soon as they got a goal back, I didn't think we were going to win the game. It's just poor at the minute, and I look at the squad, and it's not. I admit that, but I think the squad is better than it should be at the moment. I think we should be mid-table, and I think that any manager with any kind of championship experience would have us mid-table. And as I say, I love the guy. Thought he was a fantastic player. He's one of my all-time favourite players at Huddersfield Town is Danny Schofield, but I just don't think he's good enough at this level yet. I think he's too inexperienced, and the way it's going, I think we're just delaying the inevitable. I don't think it's going to happen imminently, But I do think at some point he's going to be relieved of his duties, which is, like I say, it's really, really sad because he's such a good guy and he was such a fantastic player for us. But it just ain't working. I just think.
Okay, I don't know if that's me, but it's just dipping a bit in and out for Chris there. I think one question that we can probably open is: the players a little bit downbeat at the minute? Do you think the players are playing for the coach? That's, I think, a valid question at this point in time. I would like to think they are, and things just aren't quite. Like Kosi says, things probably, hopefully, aren't quite as bad, and things just aren't quite going for us. That Will Boyle tackle on Karlan Grant. We'll call it a tackle, shall we, on Karlan Grant that we saw on Saturday, and we'll gloss over very quickly. But at this point now, we're going to invite more people on to speak as well. Otherwise, we'll move on to the transfer window, because it is the close of the transfer window tomorrow, and I'm sure everybody is really keen on seeing what happens with Huddersfield Town. So if anybody would like to come on, so Statto, I can see you there. Tom Bradshaw's completely bottled out of speaking several times, despite my requests at the minute. So Tom's keeping himself to himself. Josh, off we go. Go on, Jonny.
I'll just say something on the back of that. Just on Danny Schofield, is it the right time for him, etc., and his abilities as a coach? I think it's a little bit kind of the man after syndrome, but different to kind of Wagner last time. Because I think the way Carlos left, how much obviously surprise it was to the players, and how much the players obviously liked and bought into Carlos. I think for me, not necessarily just experience in coaching and running a football team and being a head coach, but more just someone who's got a bit more of a big personality, or not necessarily a name, but has been there and has taken over a few teams before and has that experience to do that. To change a mentality, or to change a culture, or to have the head strength to come into a dressing room that is a little bit down, or a little bit kind of like disappointed or shell shocked. I think that's where Danny probably is, in my opinion. Because I don't know the guy, I'm not a football coach. I think that's where he probably might be struggling. Is that he's coming in a real negative situation, but not your normal negative situation, and he's probably not got experience to do that, as well as kind of get his methodology across, gets how he wants to play. If he'd come in with longer, and he'd come in a different situation, or he'd come in where managers normally do. Do you know what I mean? They come in where players have probably given up on the old manager, or kind of would welcome a change, and it's fresh and it's new. He probably might have done better. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying he's a bad coach, but I'm just thinking that experience there is a thing where, for me, it was a wrong appointment. Because I think you need someone who had done that, or had a bit more experience to come in that situation. So yeah, probably right man, wrong time. For me, I think that's the kind of the area where I'd worry and probably feel most for Danny. Not necessarily his ability, but just his experience to kind of work a dressing room and just have the head strength to do that in the situation that the dressing room would have been in when Carlos kind of left.
I think Jonny, in regards to sort of the man management side, I totally see that, because obviously he's been part of that. He's been part of the coaching staff down at the town for a while now. So they've been in that dressing room when Carlos were there, and one of the big reasons why Hoyle said that he got Schofield was because basically it were for continuity purposes, as in they're going to continue to play the same way as Carlos. They're going to have the same sort of outlook. The club's going to run in the same way. So when you're talking about getting his style of play across and all that sort of stuff, surely that's no different to how it should have been. It's just the players. So if you're thinking that the style's going to be the same, I know you personally, if Hoyle's thinking the style's going to be the same, and sort of the way that they're wanting to play football, surely the recruitment needed to be better to bring players in that could do that, if that makes sense. So regardless of whether it was Carlos or Schofield or anybody else who might come in to that position, the way that the club and the way that they've wanted to play football, that's not changed, or it shouldn't have changed for me, from what we were saying. Do you know what I'm saying? So like,
I do understand.
Are the players that have come in not good enough? And
Poz, you're not telling me Will Boyle's not a like-for-like replacement of Levi Colwell, mate.
No, exactly, and that's the point I'm trying to make. He's not good enough yet. The noise that came out from the top was that they felt this squad were good enough to replicate what happened last season, which is clearly not the case. The fact that Will Boyle might be going out on loan says it all, doesn't it? He was bought, and now he's potentially going out. So, to me, you've got to look at the players and if they've been recruited. The recruitment, has that been good enough for the summer? Because for me, that's what's letting us down as well at the moment.
I do agree with your point, but he did kind of change it tactically, didn't he? Certainly for pre-season and the first game, it was different. We played that double pivot where we hadn't before, and he quite quickly kind of reverted back to it. I guess it's just different, isn't it? It's dealing with personalities. It's trying to pick players up. It's kind of, I mean, the way Carlos ran the dressing room and probably spoke to players would have been different. But yeah, you do make it. He's not kind of coming absolutely new, but I guess he has tried to change it. He did say how he wanted to change the way he played and to be more progressive and a bit more attacking and get more players forward. So I guess he has tried to put his own stamp in it somewhat. But I do also agree with what you're saying as well.
Right, guys, I'm going to bring some more people in. Just on my post, my take on Schofield is I'm still really hoping it works out with Danny, and I'm not one to jump in straight after a defeat and sort of give an opinion like that. So I'm going to sit on the fence. But some people hopefully won't be sitting on the fence and we've just approved as speakers. So I'm going to bring in one man now who I've wanted to ask actually to come on the pod a few times, so I could ask him live on this, and that's Chris Fountain. So Chris, if you want to unmute yourself. Hi, Chris. Good evening, and good to hear from you. And how are you doing? And get it off your chest.
I just don't really know what to think at the moment. I mean, in terms of signings, like people have probably said already, I don't feel like we've replaced the people that have gone. I mean, I hate to say it about Ruffles, but I just don't think he's up to it. There's been very few flashes of like a good player there. Like I'm not sold on him. Obviously, we're not seeing much of Kasumu yet, who I kind of had hopes for being the replacement for O'Brien. But I just can't put my finger on what's going wrong, because essentially, like we've got Andrew back, we've got Thomas, who was there last season, who was great, and it's just he doesn't seem to be firing. It just doesn't. There's something not clicking. I don't know whether it's the manager. I don't know whether the players are just not asked anymore. Like even one thing I picked up on was, like obviously Tino came in the last game and scored 2 really good goals. Like the first one was incredible, but at the same time, like one thing I picked up on after the match, like for me, losing a 2-0 lead at home and coming back, obviously West Brom are a good team, but after the game, you see all the players bigging each other up, saying, "Oh yeah, what a great goal!" And it was like, lads, we didn't win. Like it doesn't matter. Like it's great. I'm brilliant. I'm really buzzing that he scored these great goals and he's showing what he's capable of, but he's still not able to play more than 60 minutes. And like the attitude just doesn't seem right for me. Like they're all bigging each other up, saying, "Oh yeah, we're scoring great goals and everything," but we're losing. We're not winning. Like we're so far behind where we were last season. I mean, like I didn't actually see the game tonight, but again, like from what I'm reading, like we've had another terrible first half. Like, are we not learning from anything from the game so far? Like, it shouldn't be taking us 45 minutes to figure out other teams. And like from what I've heard about tonight, we had a few near misses and stuff. But like, you've got to put these away, man. You have to. If we want to try and like continue with that continuity, like that's obviously why we've kept Schofield on as a manager to kind of play like we were playing last season, and we're nowhere near it. I just don't. I'm a bit lost for words, really. Like it's gone from being last season being really excited to watch Town again for the first time in however many, and we've literally gone completely the opposite direction. And it's like,
Chris, were you behind the Schofield appointment or not, or would you have gone a different route?
I mean, I wasn't not behind it, but I mean, you've got to be. I mean, all credit to him. Like, it is underwhelming, really. I mean, I'm still not entirely sure why Carlos has gone. Like, I don't think we're ever going to find out exactly what's happened there. But it sounds a bit fishy. I don't know whether it's because he wasn't getting back in or because there's the Nottingham Forest conspiracy that their owners just kind of come in and just like bought everyone off. Like obviously Toffolo and O'Brien's gone, and now his manager's gone to his other team. It's like what's happened there? I'm not sure I fully subscribe to that. But I mean, I was willing to give him a chance, but I mean, so far it's not good, is it? It's not. Like I've not seen a definite like style of play. I'm not sure what. Like last year, every game you knew pretty much who was going to be playing and how we were going to set up. Whereas this time, it's just we don't know where the 3 at the back. Obviously, we've got injuries with Oh, bloody hell, mine's gone. We've had injuries at the back, but you don't know. Again, like Russell's gone backwards. Like it's just done. I don't know, mate. It's really gone from being really excited to watch Town to now. I'm not. I was constantly last season trying to get streams and trying to watch it some way or another, and now I'm not even that arsed about watching it at the moment. And it's not a place that I like to be in.
No, I agree. And one thing as well, we talk about Carlos. You've touched upon that there. There were rumours that Carlos was a little bit upset about what he perceived to be some kind of interference or not having full control over what he wanted. And there's a couple of strange tweets I've seen tonight about alluding to the same thing about Danny Schofield as well. And I suppose there's that side of things to consider is what remit has Danny Schofield been given, and is this all on his shoulders? There's a few questions perhaps that need to be answered, or maybe need to be asked more apparently. So
I agree. I mean,
that is interesting.
I'm not on the side of everyone who's bashing Dean Hoyle, to be honest. I mean, we've got a lot to be grateful for that man. I think from our football club. And again, like if you ask the question of if he was to leave and sell us to somebody else, like, are we going to end up like in the Newcastle situation? I mean, obviously they've been bought now by the Saudis, but like before, you see just so many horror stories about owners just coming in and just absolutely ripping the soul out of the club. So I'd be quite hesitant for him to go. But I mean, it's like, where are we at now? What's the plan? Like, what? It just doesn't seem like when we had Carlos, like we were getting these players from Premier League clubs. I mean, obviously we've got Andrew in, but like, are we, like the way that we're playing at the moment, are we still going to be in the running to get them players? Because it just doesn't, like, I mean, obviously we need some players in, but are they going to want to come to us? Like, if they've got other options, like there's this thing with Tyrese Simpson at the minute, like if he's got an offer from West Brom, now obviously he's done this interview in the kit and all that. Like, I mean, what God knows what's going on there, but are people going to want to come to us? I don't think I'd want to.
It's a good question. I'm not someone who's going to sort of mention things that I've heard, in terms in a public space, but I wouldn't worry too much about the Tyrese Simpson West Brom thing at this moment in time. I think that will reveal itself in its full self tomorrow, so I think that'll be okay. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff to go over there. Thanks for that, Chris, and definitely.
One more thing I just want to
go
say,
on, mate.
Just quickly, like I don't know if I'm reading too much into it and stuff, but like the post-match interviews from Danny Schofield, like I don't really get anything from it. It seems very generic. It feels like tonight he says we wanted to attack, so we put all the attacking pitches, all the attacking players on the pitch. Well, yeah. Well, that's what we should be doing. Like, I just don't feel like I get. Obviously, he's a new manager, and I'm sure he don't want to upset the dressing room and stuff. But like, if we're not playing well, like obviously, I'm not saying come out and slag the players off, but there's never really been any kind of any words of like it's not good enough, we need to improve. It's just all like, well, we need to do this and do it. It just doesn't seem like there's any like fire there. I want someone who's going to say, look, we've not played well enough, it's not good enough, we're going to change things, we're going to do that. And I just like I say, it's all very, very generic for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of managers like that, to be honest, Chris. I think I've heard my pal Dave Hartrick always says David Wagner was quite like that, but I hung off every word David Wagner said. But
exactly, yeah,
we do that when we're winning. But he found him very bland and very sort of matter of fact in that way as well. But everybody finds it differently. But there's a lot of coaches definitely like that who just don't do particularly well in front of the media, and thankfully they're very different behind it.
No one wants to upset anybody, do they? Everyone wants to kind of be on the side of like making everybody happy.
No Nigel and no Brian Cloughs anymore, is there?
There's not.
Unfortunately,
whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know.
Definitely bad, young man. Right. Thanks a lot for that, Chris.
Cheers,
definitely
mate.
get you on the pod one time if you fancy it.
I'd love to, mate. I'd love to get on there.
Brilliant. We'll sort that out via DMs quite soon. And I'll bring on somebody who has been on the podcast quite recently, and that is our man from Greenbow, Alabama. That's Jerry Hinnen. You all right there, Jerry? Just unmute yourself and then get fired in, bud.
Yeah, I'm here. Cheers, guys. Thanks for getting the spaces together. Hi to all the Town fans. I won't talk for too long. My main worry right now is with Danny Schofield and his performance is how little improvement we've seen on the defensive half of the field from game one to now. Like game one, obviously it was Burnley. They're a good team, but they cut us to ribbons in that very first 45 minutes. And now we're, 6 matches later after that. And Bristol City, I don't think is anyone's, they've got some good players. Farman obviously is a very talented goal scorer, but they're not anyone's idea of one of the sort of heavyweights in this division. They scored 2. They hit the post in the first 5 minutes after Ruffles got torched down his side and his man put in a cross. And then Nichols had to make his, one usual wonder save per match there, towards the end. And, I think you can sort of look at the positive from this match and say, well, if Pat Jones doesn't hit the post, if Burton or Lees, either one of them puts away like a pretty straightforward chance there in the first half, the game is very different. And that's true. But at the same time, if Bristol don't hit the post, in the 4th minute, or one of those other chances late on goes in, this could be a 3 or 4-0 match. And it worries me that, we've talked about Grafton being more difficult to play against. And I think there's a lot to that. And, it's not just that, Town are not difficult to play against, and they're not forcing teams to really struggle and make good plays to score goals. That it's very straightforward against Huddersfield Town's defense right now. We're going to cross the ball to Naki Wells with 2 players on him, and he's still going to score. It's just very, very frustrating that after 7 games, they're still just disorganized, that the goals are still as soft as they are, and there hasn't been that improvement from match 1 to now. So that worries me. The other thing that worries me is that somebody else alluded to it earlier, but, we got off to the terrible start under Jan Seward a couple of years ago before the Callies came in, and I don't think in this championship Town can afford to necessarily wait that long and have that kind of start again where they take 1 point from whatever the first 10 matches. Obviously, they're ahead of that pace, but there aren't any Wycombe Wanderers in the division this season. There aren't any like Barnsley from last season. There's not any of these teams where you just circle and you say, oh, well, they're definitely going down. They're definitely worse than, Town. Peterborough last year would be another example. I would like to think that they'll finish ahead of Rotherham still, but, there's not finding, somebody else alluded to this earlier in the spaces, I think it was Chris, said it's tough to find 3 or 4 other teams in this division who are worse than Town. And it's going to continue to be tough until we see some improvement on the defensive end. And, I wondered coming into this match, like Ruffles, I know we all want to give him time. By all accounts, he's a great dude. He contributed last season. We know that Turton took a little while to come into his own last season. But I just don't think he's getting it done right now. Like the defense is just not good enough. And so I wondered, maybe we move Yuta out onto that left back and we bring in Edmonds Green, who I think has fared fairly well enough, all things considered, there in the center. We didn't do that. And then, I think Yuta's a very talented player. I like seeing him on the ball, particularly by a center back, but he's not a big dude, and he got beat in the air straight up tonight by Naki Wells. So I think there's a bit of an issue there. I wonder if that's something that we could see change. It's just those little adjustments that, I feel like we've just got to get those little things sort of fixed in the back. I wonder about Russell in the midfield. I do think he was better tonight than at some stages in this season. But still, if we're vulnerable at the back and we're talking about not having that graft and aggression in midfield, that's not what John Russell is going to provide. And, it's maybe not fair, but the one win Town have this season, Russell started that game on the bench. We had Hogg and Rudoni kind of as that double pivot in the middle of the 3-4-3, 5-3-2, whatever you want to call it. I really think Schofield has to think about dropping Russell as well. I think he's an immensely talented player. All credit for what he accomplished last season. I think he's going to be a key part of the squad going forward. But right now, Town have to get better, especially defensively, in a hurry in this division. And I wonder if some big changes, kind of have to be made. So, again, thanks, guys. Enjoyed being on, and talk soon.
Jerry. Absolutely love hearing from Jerry. Top man. So thanks, Jerry. Right. We'll go from Alabama to Dale Marsden. Why not? Dale, do you want to take yourself off of mute and get fired in, mate? And good to hear from you as well, pal.
Evening, chaps. Short and sweet from me. I think what you see at the minute is a direct reflection of the off-field problems at the club, and it's something that I've been saying for a number of years. It's an absolute mess. There's no plan, there's no direction, there's no leader. There is nothing good about this club at the minute. And I've got to kind of reflect on what I was saying about Corberan last year, because I did think he was the most boring manager I've probably come across since Paul. However, he papered over the massive cracks that are happening at the club on a weekly basis. To me, I just don't know where we're going. I don't think anyone at the top knows where they're going. I don't think anyone's interested at the top. And you've got people like Bromby getting off scot-free for producing shit year after year. I think these are where our issues, rather than on the field. You can pick the bones off every performance, but I think it's a direct reflection of what's going on above that. Danny Schofield has got the worst set of cards that any manager's probably had. So I won't subscribe and I won't listen to any kind of negative talk about him, because for me, he's just been a Joey. He's just been chucked in at the deep end. And there needs to be some direction from the top.
Who's the top man that you're aiming at? Bromby or?
Well, at the minute, it's going to have to be Hoyle. But it's between him, it's between Hodgkinson as well, but I guess that guy's gone, so it's not really something I can attribute to him fully. Bromby is probably one of the biggest concerns, but why is no one picking up his kind of lack of quality in the director of football? Where's the recruitment? I think our recruitment is probably one of the worst in the division. We don't seem to improve year on year. There have been a couple of good signings, but we don't seem to improve the squad. Or other than the defence last year, we don't seem to be improving on certain positions. We seem to be trying to get lucky with lower league players rather than picking them off for a particular reason or a particular attribute and quality. It seems to be more than just performances that is my issue.
Are you not impressed with Radoni recently?
I am pretty impressed with Radoni, but again, he's one of very few. There's few and far between these good signings.
I think what you've got to look at as well is I agree with you. I think Corberan was absolutely fantastic at putting a team together and hiding the weaknesses of that team as well. So, players like Ollie Turton, for example, who had a really rough start, they found a way to implement Ollie Turton in that defence and get him to do what he was good at. And I thought Corberan, and John Russell as well. John Russell's lack of pace is also, been a concern recently. But again, they put the right players in terms of Lewis O'Brien, etc., around John Russell, and they managed to negate that really well and move on. So I do think, you're right in what you say in terms of what Carlos Corberan did was great. In terms of recruitment, I guess the budget is what it is, isn't it? And you can only bring in certain players of a certain level with what you're given. It's no doubt a difficult one out there. Luton seem to do that particularly well, though, so you can also throw Luton Town into the mix and say how come they can get it so right. But we did finish in the playoffs last year, so I don't think it's all doom and gloom, to be honest, with regards to that. But it is a frustration at the moment, isn't it? And I will say, I think in terms of the deck of hands, I thought Carlos Corberan had a really tough one. The start of getting my years mixed up now. Was it 2021 when he still had the likes of Mbenza, etc., Pritchard there, and having to play Ben Jackson in midfield, etc. So I think there've been a couple of rough moments, but he managed to find a way to make that work, and I do really hope Danny Schofield finds the same way to make that work as well. To be honest, Dale, because he is a cult hero, isn't he, at the club, and I'm sure everybody wants Danny Schofield to be a success.
I hope he gets a full season to practice like Corberan did, and given a 7-0 defeat in the middle of that. But Corberan,
he got off to a good start, though, didn't he? He built the platform for that, though, didn't he?
I'll give him that. But he also had a pre-season. He also had some kind of, preparation Danny Schofield has had zero preparation, so I'm not going to attribute any kind of the bad performances on him just yet. It won't be all kind of scot-free for him, but he's had zero preparation. He's just a yes man, and I do feel for him. Again, I don't think there's been a plan. I think, again, Hoyle was telling Porkies, saying, it was always the plan to get him in. It was never the plan. It was the same as what he said about Sievert, that they were tracking him. For all of Hoyle's good points, right now, I think his heart's lost. I think he's not interested. And his problem is who's going to buy the club, because no one's going to lose £10 million a year on us.
I think the thing is for me, guys, is like it feels like we're starting from scratch again. But then I've just been kind of thinking about it. Like we were absolutely cheated in that playoff final. So the emotional baggage of that were absolutely huge. We're just kind of recovering from that as a club. And then obviously Carlos leaves us, 3-4 weeks to go. Then right at the death, we knew they were probably going anyway, but we lost two of the players, the best two players to the club that absolutely muled us in the final. And you always get an hangover normally from the playoff kind of finals anyway, although maybe our time in League One, we kind of got up there straight away again and we were good at shrugging it off. And I don't know, maybe should we cut them a bit more slack than what we are? Because part of me thinks, well, hang on, it's still the same players, but we've had a lot of body blows, haven't we, in that as well? And but then obviously throwing in an experienced coach in that as well, is it any real surprise it started like it has?
I don't think it's surprising. I think if you think back, Kosi, to our pre-season discussions on the pod and also kind of in general, we all said that we'd struggle. I think realistically, I think Dale made a really good point in the fact that we've brought in these players and we don't seem to improve the squad as a whole. So we might bring in 3 or 4 players, but they don't really improve anything. You look at talk about the Brentford model of which we are supposedly trying to sort of replicate at Town, and they've always done really well in that they've managed to sell big and then buy in 3 or 4 that within another 2 or 3 years go on, and then they sell those big and then they reinvest it and get the right players. Where obviously I appreciate now they're in Premier League, their fees will be just automatically higher, but we don't seem to do that. I think. It might have been Jonny earlier, or whoever we were talking about central midfield role, and Johnny Russell. The fact that we sold Lewis O'Brien, probably one of the best midfielders in the Championship, yet we seemingly had no backup plan for him. It were kind of obvious that he were going to be leaving. There was talk of it before the end of the season, so he were pretty much nailed on, and yet we didn't have a like-for-like replacement. All right, we signed Kasumu, but we all said before how injury prone he was. So if that were the case, maybe we should have gone for either somebody else or had another player to come in to sort of cover for him. And I think when Dale talked about lack of planning and lack of vision and lack of clarity and where we want to go, it's those sort of things that cast that sort of opinion and that sort of doubt into people's minds. Because there's no doubt in my mind that this squad now is massively weaker because players that we let go. I mean, if people forget, I think I mentioned this earlier on the pre-season, but people forget about people like Sarr and Sanani, Colwill, because we didn't sell them. They've kind of slipped under the radar of no longer being with us, and none of the players that have come in are anywhere near that quality. So then to lose O'Brien and Toffolo as well, that's probably 5 of your main starting 11 that's gone and being replaced with an inferior quality. So when you talk about are we surprised with how bad it is, probably not. No, because the players that have come in are not at the level that we had last year, so they're going to struggle. And we've got a new manager. Andy only got maybe 3 weeks at best notice to say that we're going to be first team manager. So when you take all that into consideration, it's no surprise at all, really.
Interesting that you mentioned Brentford there. Because when they sold on their players for big money, they went and signed players for much bigger money than what we're spending. But Ivan Toney, I'm not saying we're going to spend 5 million on a player like that, but Charlie Good, nearly £1 million. Italiano, he cost a fair bit as well. So I just think we're doing sort of a very, very low budget version of what Brentford did, and this is the consequence of that.
Okay, well, let's get some more speakers on because this is what we're trying to do. So next we've got Statto. So Unfortunately, not Angus Loughran, but HTFC Statto, aka Ben. If you want to take yourself off mute, if we've not sent you to sleep, buddy, and get yourself fired in.
Even lads, I just feel sorry for Schofield at this point. I think he's been dealt like a horrendous hand. I think, like, based off like last year, if you look at like our most used 11, you've lost Colwell, O'Brien, Sinani, Toffolo, Adam Pearson. That's 5 very key players there. Just gone. And the people he brought in, like Jack Redoney, he's going to be a great player, but he's quite raw at the moment. And Will Boyle going to be going out on loan soon. Like, what is that sort of signing? Conor Mahoney can't even make the matchday squad. Nakayama's looking good. Kasumi's just looks quite injury prone. And then Andrin, who was here last season, and Kessler Hayden. Like, it's just not really a great bit of business from us in the transfer window. Added in, like, obviously, like O'Brien and Toffolo, who were just so key to us last year. Like Toffolo, especially, like going forward. Like, I think he was a little bit suspect defensively, but his attacking play was just so key to us. I know we've been like mentioned with a few players like Heeeere, that guy from City, and Simpson, but I just think it's a little bit too late for that, which is my worry. I just think like Schofield just been given 3 weeks of pre-season to try and assemble something, and it's just so hard for him, given it's his first job. Personally, I would have let him go to Belgium. I think he needed that first managerial stint before going to town, because I think the Championship's such an unforgiving league to come into as a first job. So yeah, that's my take at the moment on it.
Okay, cheers, Ben. I expected a couple of stats thrown in there from you, Ben, as usual, but I think there's some good points in there as well, and there's definitely some people are coming out fighting for Danny Schofield as well now, which is nice to hear. It's not nice and it's not pleasant to sit and be critical of a man who's done a lot for the football club. So it's good to hear the other side, and maybe the other side we'll get from Nick Barlow. I think Kozi's trying to speak, but we'll send Nick in first. Nick, you've been waiting to speak for a little while, so cheers for that. Jump in, take yourself off mute, and get fired in.
Cheers, Matt. Hey, guys. Well, what can I say? It's cheered me right up, this conversation. All positive and happy and sunshine.
we aim to please, you know.
Yeah.
Could be worse, Nick. You could have a claret and amber shirt on, mate.
Absolutely, mate. I mean, the only thing that cheered me up tonight was seeing that Forest got spanked by Man City 6-0. And when you start seeking solace in other teams' misfortune just to bring a little shred of smile to your face, you know that you're in for a tough season. And God, I don't know. It's so difficult. You know, Danny Schofield, I really like the guy as a person, and I do think he's got potential to be a great coach. But I agree what people are saying. You know, the Championship is a tough league. It's not a league to blood in as a manager or a coach, should I say. And I just think he's been dealt a bit of a duff hand. I think he didn't expect to get the job. It was kind of last minute. It was a rush pre-season. The players are suffering a hangover, obviously, from the playoff defeat. And I just think as a squad, you know, that togetherness. One thing we did our last season was togetherness. We looked like a team. We had organisation. We had commitment, desire, which we all craved in the seasons before. We were absolute dog shit. And we've managed to get that team spirit back together. And now I look at the team and we're just ungelled. The players look lethargic, making basic mistakes. It looks so easy to score against us when it was so difficult last season. We've never scored loads of goals ever since we got promoted back to Championship. But, you know, at least last season we had such a solid defence that we could sort of build on. And now we're just back to being so easy to play against. And I don't think it's Schofield's fault. I think it's just such a difficult situation. Because what do you do though? You know, you can't replace the players. You know, the team at the top aren't going anywhere. So if we lose to Blackpool and we inevitably lose to QPR away, which, you know, I think that is almost an inevitability, what do we, you know, how long do you give him? Poor guy. I just, it's hard to find many positives at the moment. And, you know, I stupidly predicted us to finish 5th, believe it or not, at the start of this season, because I thought I wanted to.
You do make some stupid predictions, Nick, to be fair, don't you? That sometimes see you half clothed and running up and down stairs and whatnot.
But you want to start the season with some positivity, don't you? And I thought, do you know what? Some of these young players, they might come good. We keep that positivity. Use the injustice of the playoffs as a bit of the springboard, galvanise the team and get off to a good start. But we just look like a team of strangers sometimes, and it's so depressing. And do you know what? I don't see any other option other than the guy to go. I think it's when, not if. And I feel for the guy. But this is what happens when you sell your best players and replace them with players from the league below.
It definitely takes a little while, doesn't it, Nick, to get players below up to speed. And definitely, like Dale made some really good points, actually, thinking on about the 3 weeks that he had in pre-season. But go on, Koz.
The transfer window, mate, tomorrow, massive. I think is one of our biggest windows ever, and feels like we're aiming for single one, not treble 20 if we're not getting a midfielder, as we discussed earlier. 2 centre-back. The trouble is you don't know what to believe. There's many people on Twitter now reckon inside information, and we had that thing from Alan Nixon tonight that they've even, letting William Boyle available for loan and stuff. And it'll be interesting to see what we end up with. It's so bizarre, the Tyrese Simpson thing, isn't it? And surely it's got to be signed. You don't just put a video like that out and take it back. But it's a bit weird, isn't it, that he hadn't. And, West Brom, but West Brom signed a guy with it today from Akron or something, like a striker or something. So I don't sure it'll go there. But honestly, I'd rather have one centre half, which still sounds like the guy from Barnsley. Get me a centre mid. And, there's someone tonight was on Radio Leeds when I was driving home, before the game. We need a striker. And I don't think we need a striker in at all. And we've sounded like we've got one in Simpson anyway, but I think it's such a big window, this, mate. For us, we've got to get it right, and I'm afraid your conch could be consigned to the dustbin, mate, if rumours are believer Karoma going out. But what do you expect, mate, for the next 24 hours?
Well, first of all, I think we need a new player for this conch, don't we, if you believe the rumours. I think what we've seen is we definitely need some height, don't we, at the back. We've seen against West, the last 3 games now, we've seen it being a bit of a weakness. Norwich away, where Josh Sargent's outjumped, the centre backs. We've seen it again tonight. We've seen Naki Wells outjumping Josh Ruffles and Yuta Nakayama. So I do think we need someone in there who can, be a bit more commanding. I still think we need that central midfielder who can, spray balls around. There's absolutely no chance we'll get either of them, but, someone in the mould of a Dan Barlasser from Rotherham or a Cameron Brannigan from Oxford, one of those sorts of players I think we're quite short of. I don't think we need a striker. I do think Tyrese Simpson will be, someone like that is pretty good. We're looking sort of medium to long term there as well with Kyle Hudling, because you've got Danny Ward, who's out of contract at the end of this season. You've got Jordan Rhodes, who's got just under 22 months left as well. So, bringing players through is important. So I do like the long-term planning and the medium-term planning, but it's the short-term, isn't it, where everybody's eyes are at the moment. And someone like Mikael Helik, who's been linked, would be ideal for me in the back, and someone, in midfield to maybe spray the ball around. And Kosi, just mute yourself a bit, mate, because I think there's some feedback coming through.
It's not me, mate. It wasn't me.
Where's the feedback?
So fair? It wasn't me.
I tell you what, let's get some feedback. I'll shut up now and we'll move on. So Callum Scott, a mate of Poz's, you can unmute yourself, Callum, and get fired in. You can either get fired into the transfer market, the game, whatever you want to do. The drumming in the South Stand, whatever you want to do.
Evening, gents. Apologies for the sound. I am outside. I've just finished work. So I had the misfortune of listening to the town game via the Bristol City iFollow stream. And it just struck me that their commentary team were just saying, Lee Nichols was one of the best goalkeepers in the Championship last season. Now he looks frightened to come and gather a ball. And we saw tonight, nearly every ball he got, he spilled.
First half he was a bit ropey, but second half I thought he was better. But yeah, first half.
And their second, I think, it was quite poor. But I'm worried because I don't see where the direction is coming from and where the direction's going, because, and if the Will Boyle going out for loan thing happens to be true, that must speak volumes for it's just nonsense coming from a transfer policy where you bring him in and then you immediately send him out for a loan. I'm not seeing any squad harmony. I'm not seeing any harmony from the boardroom down to the touchline. It's just a mess at the minute.
Go on, Poz. You can jump in here unless you've gone to sleep.
No, mate, I'm still here. I think plenty of people have mentioned similar things tonight, which is in some respects good because it kind of highlights that everybody's seen the same things rather than there's not really any polar opposites at the moment. Sometimes you get that where people see it totally differently. A lot of people seem to be seeing it along the same lines, which is good because hopefully the people in the club can see the same things and start to do something about it. I think if we're talking transfer window, it's amazing that we've kind of got to this point and we're still bringing people in because it's interesting. It would be interesting to know why that is, because if the players that were originally signed were deemed good enough, why all of a sudden do we need more? It seems a little bit of a last ditch attempt to try and salvage something as a panic button being pressed. If people realise that actually these players that we did buy are good enough, so we need to get some more in, which begs the question then, when Carlos walked or left by mutual consent or whatever they say these days, were he right in what he was saying? That's something to be considered and thought about. But I think it's because you mentioned earlier these next few games are massively important coming up to this international break. There is some tough games in there. There's some teams that are likely to be down at the bottom come end of the season, and if we're struggling to pick up points in those few, then that international break could be a really interesting time for Huddersfield Town and stuff.
Poz, how do you think the crowd's going to be on Sunday? Is it going to be a nervy crowd? Because Blackpool are not exactly pulling up trees. I know they've got 3 or 4 points more than us. They'll bring a big following, they always do, and it's not going to be one for the faint-hearted on Sunday, and it's going to be who's going to put their hands up and in the trenches kind of game. And it's going to be a real. Honestly, that is such a massive game, isn't it? Just a mood changer, isn't it? A mood over this game, I think, as I say on Sunday. It's how will you go to the ground, mate? Are you kind of a bit of trepidation, or?
I think it's one of them. I think you've just got to. End of the day, as we always say, no matter what's going on at Huddersfield Town, every single person that walks through that turnstile on Sunday afternoon wants one thing, and that's a Huddersfield Town victory. And the way to help that happen is to get behind the team and support them and give it in the stands as much as you expect the players to give it on the pitch. However, on the flip side of that, I totally understand that the mood around the place at the moment is low and it is subdued, and it's really difficult to get yourself up for a game where you turn up thinking it's going to be a slog. Blackpool will probably, sell out their end last season. They brought big numbers and made a lot of noise. So it's up to Town fans to match that, because we can't demand all this effort and all this from the players if we're not willing to give that in the stands. It's a two-way thing. If anything more, we're there to spur them on and get them to those levels rather than sit and slag them off and kind of wait for them to get to those levels without it. But it will be interesting if Blackpool go 1-0 up or something like that, what the mood will be like, because it happened on Saturday against West Brom. As soon as they got their first goal, although we were still winning 2-1, the crowd just went flat, and it had that air of we're going to throw this away, whereas we need the crowd to stick with it and get behind the lads to try get them over the line. Everybody keeps talking about Danny Schofield being a great lad and everybody wants him to do well. Let's show him that. Let's get behind him on Sunday. But I do fear that if we do go behind, then things that could be a bit of a turning point, and things may get a little bit more hostile in there towards, and maybe I don't think towards Danny Schofield direct, but more towards the club in general. And it won't just be a case of what's happening on the field on Sunday. It'll be kind of a built up, maybe pent up aggression from what's happened after that day at Wembley against Nottingham Forest. So it will be an interesting one on Sunday. But one thing I know is I don't really care how we play, and I don't really care how that ball gets it back at net. But if we come out of there with a 1-0 victory, then I'll take it.
I think just one thing to announce before I go to Josh Phillips, and Josh will have the last word for the evening, and that is that we are now part of the talkSPORT Fans Network. So we've had a quick swift change. So we will no longer be on SoundCloud. So if you're looking for us on SoundCloud, we'll no longer be there. We've moved across to Acast, but we've also moved the RSS feed across as well. So if you use
Jason Cundy's the new presenter, Matt, you've got to tell me you're leaving now.
No, we'll have to bring back Whopper of the Week, won't we? But yeah, so we're now part of the Fans Network, which means we've moved across to Acast. So if you have us on SoundCloud, have a look for us in a different podcast provider, and I'm sure you'll find us very, very quickly. And along the lines of Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, whatever, we're always there. So now we've got that little bit of housekeeping out of the way, across to a man who has probably got a lot of housekeeping to do, and that is Josh Phillips.
Hang on, Selco. It's where the trade goes. Selco.
Cheers, Cos. Yeah, just a quick few thoughts on the defensive reinforcements. So, the Will Boyle thing, that's very strange, because obviously he's been a player we've been looking at for a long time, which means we must have scouted him for a while and know the level that he's playing at. So for him to come in and play 1 or 2 games and then be deemed not good enough, a bit worrying. Reflects badly on the scouting, and then to try and get Naby Sarr back after letting him go, that's just screams of panic. But a few more positive, on a more positive note, if we sign Luke Mbete tomorrow, hopefully we do, because I've got a family friend whose kid plays at City, and he sees a lot of him. He's seen a lot of him as a footballer and also as a person, and he says nothing but good things about him. He's his biggest fan. He said he'll come in and he'll make a big impact, so hopefully he's right. Big, powerful lad, left-footed centre-back.
There's an easy song there for Poz and everyone, isn't there?
Go on.
I say it's Ram Jam, isn't it? Whoa, and Betty Bam Alam. It's an absolute banger. I'm sure Poz and that will be happily getting that on. But continue and ignore me.
Yeah, well, that's even more reason to sign him then. Yeah. But anyway, if we can sign him and hopefully Helic or someone of that caliber, then at least then, we'll look more solid defensively. And if we can stop conceding the goals, it takes a bit more pressure off the team. And I think that's the way to go now at the moment, the position we're in. Just be more solid at the back and getting these 2 reinforcements in, which hopefully we get over the line. We'll go a long way towards doing that. Just on the left fullback position, that does still worry me, because I don't think Ruffles is up to the standard of being like a first choice week in week out player. He wasn't brought in to do that last season with obviously Toffolo. He's been given the chance. He's not for me. The talk of Nakayama going out there, from what I've seen of him so far, I've said to you before, Matt, he doesn't look like a left back or left wing back. Certainly not a left wing back. He looks like he could do a job at left back, but it's a strange one that we haven't signed an out and out left back to replace Toffolo. But yeah, anyway, more positive. I think if we can get those 2 centre backs in, we can at least stop shipping the goals, hopefully.
Cheers for that, Josh. I think that's all we've got for tonight. We've got no other speakers, so thanks everyone for joining us. And if you like this kind of thing, follow us, let us know, and we'll probably bring it back after the next midweek game as well. So cheers everyone, and that's all we've got.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up, bring the cup back to Huddersfield.